Well, it's funny because the house that I bought.
Is there a preferred seating arrangement?
Yeah, because so you wouldn't have a swimming pool under the house.
I was wondering why he put it in the first place.
Well, it's not what it
Yeah.
is.
How you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks. How are you, Noah?
Good, good.
Looking sharp today.
Well, I am looking
Yeah,
sharp.
look at that. I like it.
I'm looking, you get that? I'm looking sharp. Thank you very much, thank you very much. Christine's laughing at me, so.
No.
Hello there.
I might come around and bring you some more stuff as we go. This is additional information that they have for this project. This is the, this is the fire station. You online already?
Oh, it's great.
There's no mic? Huh? Yeah, I'm gonna put our things in the middle.
Yeah.
Ken,
Christine, please.
don't start until I put our recorder in.
You are all set. You are recording already.
Okay.
And is your meeting going to last until roughly 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Yes.
Might last a couple minutes after.
Okay. Then after we show you what to do to stop it, because I leave at 4:30.
Okay.
So
So I better come with you now.
if I can show you that.
I can, yes, I'll be right back.
He didn't watch the West Tide all the time.
Might as well start.
He knows that.
And might as well start this.
Is it just, no, there are 4 of us today,
The only
right?
thing I don't have figured out yet is how.
Well, I saw someone downstairs.
Yeah, Bam is here.
Bam is here.
And no, Linda's coming.
Linda's not coming. Oh,
Okay, this is on as well.
That's what I'm saying.
And a number of these applicants are
yeah.
I don't blame you. Well,
Okay, great.
I heard that and I was wondering, I'll be interested.
Like you said, I wanted to get at least another 10 years out of that.
Looks great. He may need new tires.
Okay, that's okay.
The thing is wonderful. It's got great.
You GMC finally retired?
Yes. Okay, you gotta get it off the island somehow.
Okay, so,
That would be South Water Street, to Pleasant Street, to Stone.
The one that you had in contact, yes. Right. The Dodge is really happy.
I think you'll like the pickup truck too.
I'll be.
It's a nice
It's right. No, that's nice. Real, that's good.
You know, skid unit that slides in back, it's very easy to operate.
Well, if we can get it over to this wall, we can put it inside. It'd be easier, it should be easier to get inside than the other. I would say, yeah.
Definitely. I just gotta call Manny and arrange when we can do it.
You can have to take
Okay.
it out, but someone gonna have to take it out, and then they, when they have the right day or whatever.
Rich,
Yes.
I don't have that sheet in front of me.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. We can
Whom
do
do you
that.
represent?
Yeah.
What body do you come from?
Oh, Park and Recreation.
Parks and
Right.
replacing Tara.
Right, who's gone to Japan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
great.
That's the next
All right.
step, and I gotta get the other one off. Just be patient with
No,
me.
that's okay. I'm patient. If I weren't patient, I would have come to see you.
That's very cool that
I
she's
mean, I
doing
had to
that.
deal with the summertime people. I didn't want to bug you also, you know? Seriously. Yeah. That thing, though, I ought to run it with the gas tank, just with some fresh gas, and make sure it runs, you know? The Dodge is fine. No, the GMC hasn't started since whenever.
Oh, yes, I know. I
I'm
think.
sure it's all like green under the cap.
And Ken,
the rotor, you know?
where are you from
I'm
before
gonna have to
Nantucket?
get over and probably
We lived in, before we moved here,
Well, I'm in the green of the GMC. I
we lived in,
mean, I put that thing in, and I enjoyed that when I am responsible with what fit of it.
Very
you know?
nice.
And that
We're in
thing's been running
Switzerland.
great.
in Geneva.
Yeah. We have one really good fire drill. And I
Before that-
taught, they really taught, Billy McRae.
Yeah, so-
We're not married now.
So he'll help out, definitely.
Yes.
met
and
her.
the other
She was
direction,
working
he's
in
talking
the-
about
she was
it.
working in Geneva.
Moving to
And,
Tucson 5 months a year. So
She was working for an investment,
he said it hard work.
and,
I said, I don't know when those days get short.
mutual fund
I
manager.
don't know, it sounds
Met
pretty
over the
good to
phone.
me though.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Right. But I mean, he's
First 4 days,
definitely on
4
board
different
with that.
countries on 2 different continents.
Yeah, he's a
And
certainly
she said
pretty
he's been
good.
all back
Right,
ever
because
since.
without the.
That was 44 years
Right,
ago.
well, but
Wow.
I like that brush.
That's a nice story.
Really nice.
Man, where are you gonna sit, man?
corners of Monday.
It has some people coming in so they can sit wherever they want to sit. Richard is coming. They're going to sit over here.
No, that's where I want the applicants to sit.
Spent a lot of time on it, you know.
Want the applicants to
Sit
sit.
over here.
You both, if they really
Well,
want.
see, you know,
Richard sit next to you.
and granted, it was,
And,
they'll try to fix that one, try to get another truck over.
Linda said she's got a comment.
Linda's downstairs.
What are you gonna do?
Okay.
She's downstairs. I don't know if she's
Yeah,
gonna-
yeah, it was when they
They
did
got a
it.
good, you know, the
You're gonna have-
help on that.
you're gonna have a good crowd.
That's good.
Excellent. That is very loud, by the way, so you can put that in the letter.
All kinds of.
And test it out. Is it running right now? Pick up everything.
Yeah.
And downstairs, you got
You'll see
some
on the skid unit, there's a hot.
video and
Well, I want to learn how to use it because
It's very exciting.
Right.
At least
So
you
What's your best side?
It's, I've been working on that for the last
I know
30 or so years, I think.
My husband keeps threatening me that he's going to watch the HDC meetings on Vineland these days. I never want to see myself on television.
you guys
Ever.
can get up ready to make them right up on the sit right
Yeah,
up.
really. You're first, right? Yeah. Can you, Nell, can you go tell Linda we need her to start?
I actually thought the ceiling was supposed to come down when you're online.
My camera's there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the corner.
I wonder if that.
I've got to wait for one more person to.
Oh,
clear the floor.
that's fine.
How are you, Mark?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. I'd say I'm winding down a bit from the end of the year, but it seems like there's always something that keeps me going, so.
All right.
Yeah. It's been good.
How are you, Bill?
Pretty good today. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I don't know where she went to.
Okay, it is 2:03. It is Friday, September 26th. This is the Community Preservation Committee public hearings relative to the applications for fiscal year 2019. Present at this time are Rich Bradigan, Vice Chair, Rich Doerr, Dan LaFarge, Christine Neville, and our guests will introduce themselves. You understand the drill. We have half an hour allocated to you. We'd like to take 10 to 15 minutes for you to sort of flesh through your presentation and leave us 15 minutes for questions relative to what you submitted to us. So, Mark, could you?
Mark McDougal, Fire Chief.
Nelson Elderton, Deputy Chief Assigned Wisconsin.
Excellent, welcome. We've met with you before. We like what you've done so far. So tell us what you're proposing for us for this year.
It all started when we had the meeting last year. One of your members did not like the windows that are in the side of this building because they had snapped in Mondays. So I went digging through the HDC, NHA stuff and found a picture of the old schoolroom windows. And that is one of the things that we would like to do on the restoration of that building, is to get it back as near to what it was originally and still be able to function as a fire station.
Linda Williams has now joined the hearing.
And I'm eating and I don't care.
Sorry.
So
That's one part of the
Yeah.
application.
And some of the stuff, it's strictly restoration. Some of it is borderline restoration repair because it's not safe the way it is with the front steps. Those are in very poor shape. Somebody tried to skim over them like they were plastering them. The moisture gets under them in the winter, it freezes, and then you start having chunks pop off all over the place.
And if I could just add to that, in regards to the front steps, that's one of the projects to restore, and the front doors, rear doors as well, try to restore those. The money that the Firemen's Association received last year is gone to good use, and part of our concern was, of course, when we were going to redo the gutters in terms of the roof, how much rot we were going to find behind it, which we did find some rot behind there that of course, continues their addendums to the contract that we need to keep the work going. I think we're concerned with the same thing when we're replacing the windows to restore it, like Smithy says, as close to the original panels of the building as possible. Additionally, we're looking at the front doors, the garage doors, to match the 1900 postcard doors. The doors that we have on there now, they were put in a while ago because the previous doors were in really bad shape. And these doors, they're too heavy in the operation of them. We're just trying to match it up to post-historical, look as it. Okay. So anyways, not just the front steps we were looking at, we were looking at the rear steps as well. There's a cement set of rear steps on the rear of the building. The bulkhead possibility, we were looking at that, but the bulkhead needs to be redone as well. And I think the figures that we came up with, they're not contractor figures because we haven't been able to bid on it. But we are trying to leave enough room, so knowing that the windows that are in there, if they pull the windows out, depending on how much rock we discover to replace them, which obviously makes it a little bit more difficult to judge the cost of the full project.
Linda?
I have to back up what they said. I went over, Snooki and I spent over an hour and a half out there last year, and before they came in the last time, and we gave them part of the money. And we sort of knew that they were coming back this year. They did do the stuff that they really needed to do, which was roof.
Yeah, that's in the process right
Yeah.
now. The gutters are on the sawhorses, the fascia and the old gutters are at the landfill, so things are moving.
Because I know the corner boards are rotted up quite a ways. Those front steps were a big deal, but they're concrete and something else. And they figured that could wait till this year. And the windows really need to go and be rehabbed or replaced because they were in various stages of difficulty, shall we say. So when we went over that building with a fine-tooth comb last year, I didn't look at the back stairs, but they're probably just as bad as the front stairs, and the bulkhead was going to need some assistance at some point. So I think what they're saying is another year worse than it was last year.
Well, how do you make the distinction, or how did you do the distinction between repair and restore? Because under the Act, we are allowed to help you restore, but we're not allowed to help you repair. And then the second question is there no funding available from the town in as much as you're a town fire department, albeit not the principal fire department? So.
Maybe I can answer that, the funding part, anyways. Within my own operational budget, we have a minimal maintenance funding to keep the stations going. What I mean by that is if I need oil burner repairs, if I have any electrical issues, as well as if there's any necessary maintenance that's needed. But that budget line item isn't that big. It's not huge. Most of the operational budget comes to apparatus maintenance. Believe it or not, we spend a lot more maintenance on our money for maintenance on our apparatus than we do for the buildings. Now the buildings we do put in for capital plans. I have the one building in town, one out Nantucket, and one out Swansea. There's strong competition within those plans that I submit for a lot of the other town buildings, and I'm probably everyone's pretty aware. I'm trying to put in for a capital for a new fire station, main fire station, and that's what I'm working on at this time. And that's what pushed us to seek other avenues to try to find funding to get to the Wisconsin station, because we've gotten so far behind on it. Now we're just trying to catch up on it. And in regards to restoration, the idea of it is trying to bring it back to its original look as much as possible.
So on the roof, when I put the specs together, I spec'd out fire retardant wood shingles. 'Cause that place was built 1917. They didn't have asphalt shingles then. So I figured that's a restoration as well as maintenance. It's fine line.
The, as well
Yeah.
So that's part of the preservation part of it, is remembering there was a school, right? I mean, that's a real element that speaks in terms of remembering, that's what it was, beside the fire station.
For my purposes, it would be so helpful to understand. I have a sheet in front of me that tells me that the fire station was awarded $135,000 last year. So to that end, what portion of what you're talking about has been allocated or spent of the 135?
I think out of it right now for the roof and the gutter and fascias, we're talking around 80,000 of it. So
but that doesn't include the additional 18,000 that was just evaluated for
rock that they
rock,
found when they started tearing.
And then the other concern is when they start the roof, we still have concerns that what's under that roof, there may have to be an addendum. I don't know to be able to lay the roof shingles down, because I don't know what kind of what we're looking at there.
So you've replaced the roof? Or you're, no,
not yet.
no, but that's part of the 80,000.
Yep, that contract is in place. That is about $61,978.
Okay.
Then the gutters themselves were just a bit over $16,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then the discovery of the for the joists and the rafters where the gutters and the fascia goes to, that would be an additional $18,000 to $19,000.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they're at that stage, because they have to finish the fascia and the gutters first before they can replace the roof, the next concern would be, okay, what are they gonna find when they rip the shingles up? Is there going to be additional costs for that? Because you did approve us for approve the finance listing for $135,000, I think it was last year. So that has not all been used, and I think the process is going along the way that we both figured it would, because of what's behind the actual outside shell, how much damage are you going to find to be able to restore the building?
Rich and then Linda?
It's awfully hard to evaluate this project because there's a real scarcity of information in the application. So I was here last year, Christine was not. So as you look at this, it's hard to ascertain, okay, we granted 135, you're saying the roof was done and something else was done, and it's really not outlined in here. And now I look at this, and then I see two estimates, and are these for the estimates for the current application, or are these for the
Those are the current application.
That's all current in front of you.
Okay. So I'm for one, just, I'm looking for information, I'm looking for a budget on this entire building. I would certainly expect some kind of effort from the town to contribute to this. I know you've heard it before. I mean, this year we're probably going to be tighter in resources than in prior years. And I think we got 20 applications asking for over $6 million, $7 million. $7 million. So we're going to have really hard decisions. We've got some new applicants, we've got repeat applicants, so we're really going to have hard decisions onto what to fund. And as I look at this, I'm not quite sure what the 135 has accomplished. Have you submitted any? Have we repaid anything off that 135?
Not yet, Rich. Where part of the problem came in is the chief called me, he says, can you do up the paperwork? It's got to be in deliveries by the last week of August.
Yep.
And you people didn't want it. In the meantime, the bids hadn't been opened yet.
Yeah. Well,
So we didn't really know where we were at that time.
Well, I mean, everybody knows our deadlines,
Okay.
So everybody knows, it's that second Friday after Labor Day. We worked in this September, October, November period to get our citizens warrant in, and all I can say is there's a scarcity of information, there's no budget on the project, and I see no contribution from the town. And I for one, have concerns about that, and that's all I could say.
Okay, and I agree, that's legitimate. I just want to be clear. There's no information in here in regards towards the $135,000. Okay. And my question, I guess, to the committee would be, and I'm just curious because this is the second time that I've sat in front of the CPC. I know when we do the purchasing and the contracts, we're under very strict guidelines, and we work through town procurement with it, as to how the money's spent, and there's really particular laws that we have to follow.
Yep.
I don't know how that information gets back to the committee. I guess, and that's the part that I'm not knowledgeable.
The
My last question.
answer to that is that the way the procedure that we have is that when there's a request for funding, the request comes from the applicant, comes to a project manager of the committee who has responsibility for overseeing the project, that the funds are spent in accordance with the application and in accordance with the grant approved at town meeting. So once that approval is given, then it goes to to the finance department to be able to fund the payment.
And then as a project manager, would I continue to work
With that person?
throughout the, or
Absolutely.
Snooki?
Yeah.
And that person is Linda.
Yeah.
Okay.
My last question, and then I'll defer to the other committee, is there a preservation deed restriction on this parcel, or do we need?
It's a town property, we haven't been getting them.
Okay,
That hasn't been necessary for the town.
okay, thank you.
Bam?
I thought I was after
Linda.
Whatever.
I'm just wondering, I mean, does anyone go out and stick a knife in and see how far, like a carving knife goes in, or that kind of thing? Because you don't know everything, but there are things that you can find, because I do some of that kind of work. That you figure out, you make a list out of.
Somewhere in these
did that
pictures
last
from
year.
last year, Ben, is my 6-foot stick ruler shoved into the joint.
Oh, I saw
of the
that.
door.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, I mean, you're pretty sure that even the framing, some of it is gonna have to get rebuilt.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I'm interested, I mean, I'd like, if, with everybody's permission, I'd love to at least go out and take a look at it sometime, just to.
That's- go ahead.
I will, no, I will. I will.
It's a
fascinating
Next time I'm out there, I'm gonna go, in Wisconsin, I'm gonna go look at it with your permission.
If I know when you're coming, I'll meet you there.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to, something that you were saying that strikes me, dealing with building houses all the time. If I received a request for labor and material for the replacement of front steps to the tune of $13,000, and that was all I received, I would ignore it. I would laugh at it, because this to me is, how much is your labor? What are you paying for concrete? How many people have you called? Have you received any bids? Are you required by town to receive multiple bids on something like that? I mean,
Yes.
this should be broken down
And they're also
further.
required to comply with the prevailing wage law, which is the wages set in Boston.
Okay, well, but that, I feel like for our purposes, that should be spelled out a little bit more.
Linda?
I'm sort of getting a vibe that you think it should be further along, or we should have more information. There's been nothing for me to sign yet, there's been nothing for me to do yet, because they didn't even have access to those funds until July 1. So they couldn't do anything until July 1. So there were only, maybe 6 weeks into, let's see where we're going to go, and let's start to explore what we're getting into. So I haven't seen anything to sign or review yet. I just know that they had started the project. So there isn't a whole lot on the table right now for me to even give you as far as a report yet, because they're just now getting into it, because they just now got access to those funds. As far as the RFPs, they do an RFP. Depending on the amount of money involved with an RFP, you either have to get written bids, or you can make 3 phone calls if it's under a certain amount. I don't know what they've done, what the procurement officer has done, and how it was bid out, but because I haven't talked to her since.
It goes out for invitation for bid.
Okay, so this is over 25,000. So I'm sure those are out there. The bids are out there. We don't see them.
The contracts have been awarded and signed by the select.
Right. We don't see those. We don't see the bids. We don't see any of that stuff. That's the town does that through the procurement officer. We can see an RFP if we want to, but we don't see the sealed bids. When they're open, we can certainly see the contract that they have, but that's above our pay grade generally until it comes in here for me to sign it.
It is, and I don't even think I could bring those to you. That's just why I was wondering if anybody worked with the town's procurement officer directly. That's all
I don't even know what her name is now.
I just want to echo what Rich had suggested. I mean, it's
Oh,
by the way, hello, I'm new to the CPC, but having visibility and better understanding the application and cost and timeline of the 135 from last year, I think is an important piece. I mean, I'm hearing sound bites like I may have heard it wrong, we just uncovered $18,000 worth of rod or something else that needs to be repaired, or we budgeted for $80,000 for the roof, we think it's 61, but we may find other work there. I would only suggest that, and I know CPC members are cognizant of this, it can't be kind of this continued small fix that continues to fund something that really may have required, a larger architectural study to know what the entire fix is, from foundation to beams to roof to other things. And I think that concerns me as a new member of the CPC. Not that Not that the money request is not appropriate, but at what point in time does it need to stop? And I'm not suggesting this is that point in time, but fixing the building, if it's a $450,000 fix to do the right thing for the building, to service the needs that it's currently serving, where and how and when would that information become available? And it seems like that would be an approach that most of the taxpayers here would also want to know. So, a reconciliation from last year I think is important. I think we have some visibility to that, but not so much. And then I just have a couple other questions. I mentioned building use. I'm relatively new to Nantucket, so can you explain the building use to me?
The building use at this time, it's a fire station.
Right.
There's one pump, there's one tanker in it.
Bless you.
So it's used for fire as well as EMS response, and Sconset Station covers Tom Nevers, Sconset area, all the way over to Walwick area. So that means if we get any fire calls, fire alarms, Deputy Chief Eldridge responds to that, and he calls those engines on the air. Not only that, not that we have mutual aid here, but if we have a big enough incident in town, we would call Station 2, which is Sconset Station, to come in and cover the main station with their apparatus, or come to the incident if needed. It's used for training as well, drill purposes that Deputy Chief Eldridge. Yes.
How many vehicles are stored in the building, or housed? Two. So in EMS and a...
No. Once it's a pumper,
Okay.
which is a structural firefighting vehicle, and there's a tanker which carries water. Now, within the pumper, there's first aid equipment,
Defibrillators.
Yeah.
And the pumper is four-wheel drive.
Where is the historic fire truck that we funded and repaired, and is that back on island?
That is due to come back around the 8th or 10th of October.
Finished. And where will that be housed?
That will be in the old host cart house
That we-
next door, which
we paid
funded.
Which we funded also.
Yeah.
So there's no other use. I was in a recent Board of Selectmen meeting. I think there was a conversation from Chief Pittman that they were going to have more officers or later over in Sconset. There's no shared use of that facility?
Well, there is. They have the equivalent of a good-sized room closet for an office in the town.
Okay.
Which is the way it was done in 1966. When the former deputy chief was also the contractor on the job.
Okay, so thanks for that. I just have two more quick questions, if I may, and I'm done. And this is as much HDC related. At what point, from a funding standpoint or an estimate, should we be considering restoring to current spec versus restoring to historical spec? And what's really required? Well, there's been changes, and we talked about how the doors have been changed, but we'd like to go back to the original doors, or the windows have been changed, but we'd like to go back to the original windows. At what point in time is that incremental cost a mandatory for any repair to the building?
Could I answer that for building codes?
Yeah.
To bring it up to and I'm not speaking for the building commissioner, I'm speaking from the fire side of it. If you, yes, you're correct. If you put a certain percentage of money into the building, whether it's renovation or reconstruction, everything has to be brought up to date's codes. Most of the time, though, that money is it's involved with structural support, or let's just say main structure of the building, not necessarily restoration. So I couldn't tell you exactly what that dollar amount is. You are correct, but I think the type of restoration that we're doing on the building wouldn't fall under that. That's under the building codes, but that's something building department would be able to answer.
And did you want to
I think I have a direction for you. I'm just looking at the specs. You're going with Boston Sash, True Divided Light. The building code changed July 1 as to energy code requirements and hurricane requirements. They're putting in a True Divided Light wood window to match the ones that are there, if they're not rehabable. And they may have to bring the window up to current code because there's insulation in the building, there is heat in the building. on occasion, they may have to come up to code. They'll have to come to the HDC for a lot of this stuff. But what we have been doing as an HDC, and Christine knows this, is we've been voting to write a letter to the building department saying it's an historic structure, putting in double glazed or aluminum storms or whatever it happens to be, or coming up out of the floodplain would radically change the historic character of the structure. And we've been giving those letters, we've got about 10 of them now in the last year or so because of the changing in the energy codes and the hurricane requirements. And they've been accepting those and giving them and letting them go, exempting them in the office. So I hazard a guess if they come in with the windows that we're going to have to send a letter to Steve on the window issue as of July 1. So that stuff is handled through the HDC.
And could affect or does affect the cost of repair.
If
Dramatically.
not necessarily. If we allow them at the HDC to put in the Boston sash, that's just the cost of the window. Then they get a letter, if we wrote a letter, gone to the building department and say, we don't want the aluminum storms, we don't want the triple tracks, we don't want all those foo-foo new windows. I know Ken went through it on his building. And he's got aluminum storms on a 250-year-old building. We're trying to sort of not go there. These windows, I don't remember if they have storms in here or not. I don't think so.
The ones that are in there now do have storms. Those were put in the mid-1990s when the big regular schoolroom windows were taken out.
Right. So these windows are, some of them, there's one or two original windows in there, but the
Yes.
smaller windows. So replacing these things with a single pane, true divided light Boston sash from an HCC point of view, hey, great, love it. But then they run into the energy code and they run into the hurricane code, and that's where the HDC will get involved. It may or may not, it won't change the cost of the window. It may require another storm or a wood panel or, a wood storm. That may add to the cost of the window. But right now, they've got the going rate right here per window, because that's what they cost right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all set, thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, but the last question is, for me, so you got 135 last year, the request this year is 150. Does that do it? That's where a lack of a budget is really glaring. In that there's no budget on the entire project. So does 285 do it, or are you looking at next year as well, depending upon what, if any, we fund this year?
We were looking at 285 as the completion, at least for the restoration of the exterior of the building. And that's on our estimates. And see, part of it, within these new requests, we don't have prices. We did get, try to get some individuals in to give us, not bids, but contractors to give us pricing, but it was very difficult. And we could only get, at that point in time, I think we could only get 2 individuals for the cement steps.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to get individuals to come by and give us a full price for the replacements of the windows up to their natural big 4 at once. And that's been the difficult part. It's been, everybody is pretty busy right now. You're trying to get contractors in to come give us estimates anyways. And it hasn't been able to happen that fast.
Mark, to recap then, part of the purpose of these meetings is to be able to have us discover what additional information that we would like to have in order to be able to properly process your request. What we would ask is that by the close of business on October 10, which is 2 weeks from today, we would look to have you give us a more detailed report on the expenditures or the plans for the expenditures from last year, a budget for this year's expenditures, and a statement with respect to the fact that represents your best estimate for the entire cost of the project, and also a statement as to the fact that you are or not able to get any contribution from the town with respect to this. So those 3 items we would like to see in terms of additional information brought to the committee. Is there anything else that anyone would like? Hearing none, then I would like to close the application, the hearing with respect to these applicants, and thank you very much for coming today, and moving forward. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't find page 1. What is at 2:30? Is that aftercare? Okay. I couldn't find my first page in the car.
Okay. The next applicant is the Nantucket Island Aftercare, the deed restricted affordable housing. Presenting to us is Catherine Flanagan-Stover. Welcome, Catherine.
Which color am I in?
Red.
You're in the red one.
Can I grab the wrong one?
The affordable housing apartment.
Is it the red
Well,
one?
it was red for mine.
Okay. I got
There
it.
you go.
And I'm opening my food.
Actually, don't even know about that.
So, Neville, are you saying that you have submitted this? Linda signed off on this?
Which one? Did I get one after the 1st of July?
I missed
I thought it was before that.
We paid $100,000 against that.
I thought I did that last
missed that
Saturday.
wrong one, I apologize.
Neville's just showing me right here.
Wait a minute, where am I?
Wisconsin Fire Station. Where is it?
Wasn't that before July 1?
It's right here.
That's from last meeting,
Oh,
as of last meeting,
was I here last
last
week?
regular meeting.
You were late,
Okay.
but you were here.
Oh, yeah, yeah, can't forget it.
Okay.
No, that's the host, well, I'll ask about that.
Are we ready to begin? Okay. Catherine, because this is a first-time presentation with respect to that, we've allocated an hour for you to use about a third of it, 20, 25 minutes for the presentation, and then two-thirds of it for us to raise questions with respect to that. If you get done early, we will move on to your next other two projects. So,
Well, basically, this is a by-us, for-us project. It's a community effort. I just want to correct one thing in here. I had talked to the town manager about asking the town to help me find some land to put this on. And I heard what I wanted to hear, but I thought she said it was okay to talk to the planning director about finding an appropriate piece of land. And that wasn't the case. So I have to find it on land. So then I thought what I would do is find 10 parcels of land that I think would be appropriate, would be properly zoned, and put each one on an article for town meeting.
That's not right.
Bring it to the people and let them decide what they want to do. I think it's more appropriate that the town picks it, but if that's not the way I want to do it, then that's fine with me. So that's the first correction I have to make. The second is, I got some very exciting news today that we are now officially a nonprofit in the state of Massachusetts. And we have a lawyer that offered to do this for an okay. And so that's all filed now. And they're also filing for our federal ID number to raise money. And the second thing I think I wanted to bring up is that this was approved by the state, by the legislature, at the very end of June. And so I've forgotten what your deadline was, but I think it was early September. But basically what I've been trying to do is build a business plan and describe what I'm going to do for the building. And then also, third thing I'm going to do is to apply, if the NPDC will go along with me on it, to get $500,000 for the building, the main part of the building. And that would be done under a community innovative grant with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I don't know what to tell you, but I think that's basically, we figured that it's $250. Our builder says that they usually cost out at $250 per square foot. And that includes the foundation, cedar shingle siding, cedar trim, Anderson series 44 windows, and basically basic fixtures for bathrooms and things like that. The first level will be, each level will be 1,100 square feet. So that works out to $850,000, not including rent. So thought if I could apply for up to $500,000 from the state, and if I got $250,000 from the CPC, that would get us pretty far along on building the facility. Originally, we were going to have just a preparation facility, and by the end of June, when this passed, when the legislation passed, people made it very clear that they miss their funeral home, that they don't like not having a funeral home here, and they want it back. So the plans have expanded from being just a preparation facility and a morgue to an actual funeral.
Anything else?
No, just basically I know what we're going to be doing with the other floors, but that really isn't having a bearing on this.
I have one basic question, and that relates to the timing of this. This almost seems to me that we're putting the cart before the horse, because we don't even have a piece of land, we don't have any commitment with respect to building, and the problem that I have is that we have over $7 million of requests this year in an amount that we're going to allocate that is clearly less than half of that, and so the question is not whether or not this is an appropriate thing to do, but whether the timing of this is necessary at this particular point in time, in terms of our criteria that we have to apply, which is to meet the most pressing needs of the community as we see them within the three areas of disciplines that we're to be funding.
Well, I would say that I would agree to you up to the point where this is a crucial island service. And we've been without one for almost a year. And the people are really desperate. They're really suffering. And I would say that you have to take a step in faith and believe that we are going to get the land, because I know the people are ready to vote for it, no matter where it is. I don't think people care where it is, as long as they get it. And I think we have to all take a step in faith that this is something the community wants.
But where would the land come from, and how would it be
It's
funded?
going to be town-owned land. I'm going to ask up to 1 to 3 acres. Now, I'm going to ask for an acre out by the airport on Bunker Road for the crematorium. And I figure we might as well get all of the stuff on the table and get it all voted ahead of time. And as we're raising money, anything in excess of what we need to get up and going for this, we'll put toward the crematorium. People also want that. So I'll ask for an acre of land out on Bunker Road for the crematorium, and it'll be right by the propane place, the Allen propane. But and then
And there are 10 parcels of 1 to 3 acres that the town owns.
throughout the land, throughout. Oh yeah, Nantucket has a lot of them. Anywhere from 1 to 3 acres. So there are limited 1 acre plots, but there are like 1 or 3 acre plots. Several of those around in Mid Island. I think Mid Island is the appropriate place for it. And if I hit the lottery, there's a 3 acre parcel that I would buy outright, which would be perfect. You know, the land is out there, and it is ours, and the people want it. It's their land, and they're going to vote for it.
Rich?
Any insight why the town wouldn't select the parcel for you?
Yes. They don't want to set a precedent on having land or giving land or promoting a business. Unlike the VFW or the Hunting Association or the hospital or Shrewsbury Commons, several other businesses that are operating in town.
What? You want to explain that again?
Yeah.
They've already done, I've heard this old argument for years with the town. We don't want private 501c3s operating on town property, yada, yada, yada. And yet we have several in control of town property, long leases, but in control of town property. that are not town entities. And yet they're pulling that stunt with you now?
Well, I don't think they're pulling this one. I think they're just trying to rein in, you know, and being a gatekeeper. And I think that this goes over and above anything that we've seen before, because it is such a crucial need for the residents and visitors. I mean, we had, as of yesterday, we had 60 deaths here, which is more than we've had for many years. And unfortunately, last night we had a young baby die, and so that's 61. So we're having at least 1 week here. And as the population has increased, and I believe it's at least 20,000 people here around, it's going to increase even more. And 50% of our people here are 50 or over.
Almost everybody at this table.
Well, you know, it's, time marches on, and we need to be forward-thinking. And this day has been coming for many years, and Andrew Gorse has been great. He's been trying to work with me for several years. I'm trying to find a good place. Every place that I brought forward has been rejected because they wanted to do something else with it. So at this point, I'm on my own to find the land and ask the people what they want. And I'm sure the people will speak.
So you're putting in, other than this, you're putting in, are you planning on the person who's living in this unit to be an employee of the funeral home?
Yes.
Because they have to qualify, income qualify to
Yes.
go into a deed restricted unit. And are you planning on going to town meeting for April with some more warrant articles to push this, find the land thing along, or is this the only thing that's
The
going to be
land
up?
will be selected by then. In fact, I'll be working in the next 2 weeks to figure out what it's going to be, and I'll write the warrant articles so that when the warrant opens.
Okay, so there'll be a couple of other warrant articles going in consort. If this happens here, there'll be a couple more going in consort with that. Okay. And it's going to, the unit's in the same building as the funeral home, or is this a
Yes, it's gonna be an
freestanding?
apartment on the second floor, and I have a lineman, a good engineer. But he's been building churches and stuff.
Yeah,
So he
for
hasn't had
free.
a lot of time to kind of fiddle with me, even though I've obviously played with him. But here's the second floor. Now, this is a building that he had already done, but it will basically be this size in the second floor. So there's a common room, and then there's 3 bedrooms, and then there's several bathrooms, and a kitchen, and all that sort of thing, that you would normally have in an apartment. So that could be either, like 2 employees could be here, and then the funeral director, and maybe a baby and his wife over in this section. But it will be,
Can I ask a question? Do we have a rough drawing? Is that what this rough drawing is in the back of this?
that's my rough drawing. This is a real, these
The
are
one
real.
that comes from the-
Yeah, it won't correspond to this. Basically, I did what I had to do to get the thing in on time. But,
But just keep in mind, I just want you to understand, if it's income, if it's deed restricted affordable housing, they have to have an income. They can't, I don't know how this is going to apply to a rental unit with 2 renters in 1 apartment, whether they have to both be income qualified. We haven't dealt with that even at Housing Nantucket. And how we're going to deal with the income, it has to be usually a single-family unit is really the only way we can nail the income down. And it has to be, we can only fund something up to 100% of median under the current CPC because we have special legislation to go to 150. And it's at least higher than the 80%. But you have to be, I want you to know up front the restrictions on an affordable housing unit.
and I have to be honest, I know nothing when I was putting this together. So-
Because if you're talking about an apartment with multiple employees in it or something, we can't do that with affordable funding. And the person has to be income required, so it'd be good for you to go talk to Ann Kuspa out at Housing Nantucket, because she's got all the income guidelines, what they are right now, what it is up to 100, because they're coming in later for up to 100% to do stuff. And she can go over the rules and regulations for you, because it could be that the affordable housing deed restriction would not work in this particular situation. It could be that a freestanding structure may have to do it,
Restricted?
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay.
because we're under state restrictions on the affordable money.
So I'm happy to work with whatever those guidelines are.
Yeah, I just want you to know what it is up front
Okay.
before we, maybe between now and October 10th, you can go talk to Ann and see if that program is actually going to work for you.
Okay.
Because we deal with a lot of home ownership stuff in here, too.
Isn't the 100% AMI like right around 100,000?
It's not a bad amount. Yeah.
But can
That's pretty close to what it is.
Yeah.
right around
Yeah,
100?
Pretty
So
close.
So
100%
the person
of-
would be able to
100%.
make $100,000.
100% is around $100,000.
But it can't be multiple people in the apartment.
Right, so it has to be
It's a
one-
single-family unit.
Okay, they won't be making $100,000.
So when you say, what if it's husband and wife?
Husband and wife, they still
It's a
have, they have to
family
be
unit,
total
okay.
income qualified.
It's
Total income.
It's total income of the family can't be more than $100,000.
So both husband and wife would
Yeah.
then, so the husband would make 50 and the wife would
Or
make 50?
whatever.
Or whatever.
Or whatever, yeah.
Could it go to 150? You said it.
No,
Only by special legislation, that's only the covenant program.
It's the covenant program.
So it has nothing to do with
Not-
this,
not
our
the affordable-
restrictions
Not the affordable housing that we can.
that CPCs can do. They can only do up 100% of median. We didn't really even know that until a couple of years ago.
No, we're regulated by the state relative to the guidelines for affordable housing and median income. What we were able to do as a community was to be able to get that changed because of the cost of living here to 150% of median with respect to the covenant housing and the stuff that we do through Housing Nantucket.
And that was legislative change. We had to go all through the legislation to get it.
Home rule,
And that's still
home
there,
rule.
isn't it? Isn't that still there?
It is, but the
Yes, home rule is
CPC,
limited.
this
It's
community
limited-
preservation
limited
has a
to-
restriction.
We have the restriction in terms of what we can make money available for are the state guideline of 100% of median income.
You know what?
I'm okay.
There's water right outside the door.
I'm going to get it in a minute. Thank you.
So I think, do we have any other questions? I think that we would then ask you to get back to us by October 10 with a clarification on the point that the project will be able to provide deed restriction relative to the affordable housing guidelines in terms of the median income. You can talk to Ann Cuspa about that. because
Catherine, I can go over with you tomorrow.
Okay, then.
And the other thing is that there is some issue with respect to the availability of the land, giving us some comfort but also what your proposal is if in fact there is not approval at town meeting relative to availability of land and availability of funding. My biggest concern is the availability of funding for the major portion of the project, because with a limited amount of funds, if that were only available a year from now, it still doesn't, if you get rejected this year, doesn't mean that you can't come back to us at a time when it's needed. But if your proposal is going to be, has too many ifs in it, it makes it difficult for us to act favorably with respect to it when we have to consider all the other applicants.
And certainly, Catherine, anytime, I know Ken said the 10th, but anytime between now and when we put the warrant together, if you do identify what parcel that you're going to put your warrant for annual town meeting, that's going to be really helpful for us.
Well, I know the one for the crematorium.
Yeah, but that doesn't help us because it has nothing to do
Right.
with this particular project.
Well, I'm happy to, if you have any suggestions, or if you have any land in mind, I'm happy to take any suggestions by the town. Has an incredible amount of land. A lot of it's divided up into 1 acre lot. It's amazing how that got done, but I don't know how it got done, but it did. So, if you have any suggestions on where you'd like to see the funeral home, if the people want it.
Any other questions with respect to this particular application?
What is the zoning that it has to be? What is it?
The zoning,
I think that's in your
it
application. I
has to
can
be,
look it up.
I think it's C, CN, C1, RC, RC2. and there's-
They're all commercial. They've got all commercial
Yeah,
components.
there's one other.
A CN, I think.
There's an incredible amount of land available for LUG3.
Which it is not allowed.
Which is not allowed.
Right, but those, at least those 5 commercial types of land.
We're talking primarily Mid-Island, Bunker Road, even where SeaTech. You can go to SeaTech. We're talking about basically Airport, Novedale Farm Road, Old South Road,
Right.
Mid-Island, Tacoma, where there's
Yeah.
several lots.
I was looking at Tacoma.
Yeah, and I think you need to look at Tacoma,
Yeah, there's one
as
in
well as
Stillwater.
Bunker Road, but we'll figure it out.
Are there any other points that wish to be raised before we close this part of the public hearing? Hearing none, and thank you very much relative to that presentation.
She's not moving.
We will now, since the people who are here at the end of the day are here, we'll keep moving on and try and get them out early as well. So the next application is the application under the historic preservation for the town clerk's archiving project. The request is to outfit the new office's vault with archival quality shelving, and the request is for $50,000. Do you want to follow through and give us a little bit further information and background on that, Catherine?
Sure. We had 2 vaults that were done, I think like 6 or 7 years ago. And it's the vault that was in the original town clerk's office, which is over by where Ann McAndrew is now. And then the second vault was over where the assessors used to be, where the town clerk moved into. So we had those 2 vaults outfitted with rolling shelves and archival quality shelving on the walls. What we found was it tripled our space, and instead of having the things look like, just boxes and things and all manner of foolishness stuck in there, now it's very organized and everything's labeled and everything's been rebound and covered, which thanks to the CPC we had done. So we got over $1 million to do that. So now all those volumes that were restored have been kept in archival quality conditions. We don't have a climate control vault because the vault was built in the 60s, but we have temperature controls. The State Library Association has come down. We have a representative that works with the town clerks. He's been down and evaluated our vaults. And so we have some fairly good vaults there. They've kept things from being moldy and from becoming destroyed. But a year and a half ago, we moved from the old town clerk vault, our office and vault, to a new office. And now we are in the old assessor's office, no, the old treasurer's office and the tax collector's office. And they have a vault. And the vault is big, but it's short. It's shorter than the one we had. So we can't take the vaults and the things that we've had done in the other 2 vaults and move them into there. Plus it would cost almost as much to remove them and to transfer them in. So I've gone to the capital program committee and asked for, well, first of all, I went to the FinCom and asked for a transfer right after we moved. Because Libby wants to use the first vault that we had over by the selectman's office as the vault to keep like the human resources records, the payroll records, all those things that should be under lock and key. And move things that were in that vault into our second vault. And then the things from the second vault we're going to move into our new vault after it got outfitted. But the FinCom said that I should go to town meeting with it and go to the CPC, so I went to the capital program committee. They turned me down because they felt that this should be part of an overall town records management system. And I have been asking for a town records management system for quite a number of years. And finally, I just instituted it for whatever records the town clerk's in charge of, which is basically all the town records that have been submitted to us, minutes, town meeting records, election records, marriage licenses, vital records, all those types of things, historic things that we had all our volumes redone for, those are in our vaults. So right now, we can't move those things into the new vault because the shelving is basically Home Depot shelving. There are spaces between the shelves like this. They're very flimsy. You can't, archivally, you're not supposed to stack the index books on top of each other because you put the bindings. They're very heavy and very thick and very big. So we spend an inordinate amount of time going back and forth to the big vault, getting our indices and our records. So, number one, it will save us a lot of time going back and forth. And number two, we have an incredible amount of wasted space. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's pictures in there that I took that will show you, it's basically all open space, and it's being wasted. So, that's why I'm asking questions.
Christine and Linda?
What immediately comes to mind is, do you think you'll have to move again soon?
Yeah, where? No, I'm not going anywhere.
No, but I think it's a legitimate question. And
I don't think they're planning on moving the town clerk. They might be moving the schools, they might be consolidating other offices, but
Not out of the town building.
Linda?
We've been, for those who are new, we've been working with Catherine for many years on rehabbing. I don't think you can bring any of that stuff with you this year, but we paid a lot of money over several years to 1800 records from the 1800s, 1600s, and they sent them off to Browns River, who does a lot of that reconstruction and protection. And you look at these books, and they're huge and they're heavy. And we knew I think you came to us a couple of years ago asking for shelving for the books as they were coming back, and
the second row.
and we didn't have the money. I guess we had a
But
lot
we
of
provided. I mean,
some, but not all of it. But I think that's why you're back now, because books
We
are
have a
coming
vault.
back,
We have a new vault.
new vault, and the books are outstanding. It's true we didn't bring it in for the people who haven't sat on here, but the records are outstanding. I mean, you can go in and find anything you want in those things now. And they're digitized as well when they're doing
They're
it.
microfilmed, they're digitized.
Yeah.
We have a laserfish system that basically if you type in a search word, it will bring up every instance of that particular type of record with that particular search word. And we just got a letter the other day from, I don't know if any of you are here that remember Dr. Harvey.
Yep.
You remember Dr. Harvey? This is his granddaughter. And she came to us, I would say, about a year ago. She was trying to find the graves where the Harveys were.
Yep.
But more than that, her father had died very young. And so her mother was forced to buy a lot for a single grave. And then the next year, after the estate got settled, she bought another lot right next to it, but she had no deeds. So we did some searches through our Laserfish. We found lot numbers. We found other names and other things so that we produced that information. She brought it to Jeff Morash at Prospect Hill. We found the graves. They could indeed document that they had bought a lot, when she said a year after the husband died. So she just wrote a letter, thanking us for. But we get letters like this all the time. This is the type of thing we do. And because of that Laserfish, we can find just about anything that ever happened in Nantucket. Town council constantly calls us, for information, saying, is it possible that we could have done this or that? And we find it. It saved a lot of money.
I want to just add, when I went to that historic preservation thing and another CPC thing last fall and one in the spring, a lot of town clerks around the state are using CPC funding for exactly. I mean,
Well, we
Browns
said
River has
that.
probably gotten billions of this, but they're doing it all over the state. What I'm looking at this and I'm worried about these books is because, like the fields, we paid for the fields. We want the field house. We want this. We want that. We paid for these books, and they're not stored the way they need to be stored in some respects.
That's my point, Linda. The problem that I have with this application is simply this. I'm not seeing the benefit for the $50,000 that we're being asked to fund, other than the saving of time of your people walking back and forth to have access to these books. And the fact that these books, these shelving were specifically designed to be able to preserve these kinds of books. If we take them and create a new space for them, the money that we've spent to create these very special shelving is going to disappear.
No, it's going to be, they're going to be used in exactly the same way. Because everything in our first vault
It's going into the second
is
vault.
going into the second vault.
Shelves are
So
going with
not
it.
everything that's in the second vault is going to go to the new vault, because we have an incredible amount of law books and planning board stuff and zoning stuff and everything that's in the first vault. All that is going to be moved into the second vault. Then all the big volumes that we use every day are going to be moved into the new vault
With the shelving.
with the new shelving.
So
And
the
the
shelving's
things that are
gonna
going
keep
into
going.
the first vault are all records that have to be under lock and key. They should be in a vault, and they haven't been in the vault for X number of years. So those will go on the vault shelves that we have that have been built for the types of documents that we're in now.
I
So
think
basically,
what Ken is saying, though, is that the books, the shelving that we bought for the archival books is going with the, wherever they're going, whatever vault they're going in, the shelving is going with it.
No, the
No.
shelving is staying right where it is.
That's my concern.
That's what
It's
his concern was.
the same type of books that are going into the shelving that's already there.
Okay.
So we're just moving the shelving, the books from one spot to another, same type of shelving.
Okay.
And then we're asking for new shelving for the same type of books. So it's just like a Chinese puzzle. We move it from here to there, and it's all the same.
All right, so
All
the
the same type
archival
of
books are
shelving.
going to be in still the shelving that we paid for, plus the new shelving
the
for the
new
new
shelving
archival
because-
books, the other archival
Exactly.
books. Okay. So it's not going off the
When I
cliff.
can show you how that's going to work.
For me, I'm a visual learner. I think I would benefit from going down there and actually seeing what you're talking about, because it's not making a whole lot of sense to me.
You'd be happy to.
Yeah, it will when you see them.
Now, no, I know what the books look like, and I will tell you that I hail from a town where we had one huge room where you walked in and all the town records were kept in one room. So if you wanted to find anything having to do with marriage, death, land records, whatever, it was in a very special room with special shelves, but it was all encased in a room. So there was no moving things in and out. There was no, so you're having to move things from room to room is what's throwing me off.
Well, when we do work at the computer, usually research work, we can't leave our office for more than a couple of minutes. So we go down, we get the books, we bring them to the new office, we do the research, we work with the computer, we work with the laser fiche, then we have to bring the books back,
Okay.
because we can't put them in the new book.
Okay.
That's all that means.
Rich?
I just want to be clear. We funded this project over a number of years, and I'm seeing maybe $537,000,
More
maybe
than that.
more than that.
Almost
Okay.
$1 million
Almost $1 million.
for the
All right.
books.
Okay, so I'm not seeing something on one of my sheets here. So part of that funding was preservation of the records, putting them in these brown bindery up in Maine or New Hampshire. They restored the book. They restored the books. They restored the data, and part of our funding did that. Part of our funding was for the shelving and the vault, and not the vault.
Just the shelving.
Okay, so then all of these books went into the vault, which has the shelving. Okay, so you had to move. Okay, so what's going to be in the vault with the shelving that we paid for?
There are two vaults that we pay for shelving. First vault, all those things are going into the second vault for our old office. Do you remember where our old office was? Where I was behind a file cabinet?
Yep.
Okay. All those records from the first vault are going into the second vault. that was also done for show, special show.
That we paid for?
Yep.
Okay.
And all those books will be going into the new book. So it'll be just like, okay, here's the old vault. That's the first vault we had. This is the second vault, and this is our new vault. So the records that are in the first vault that you did, which is the small vault, will be going into this vault. Some of these records will be going into this vault, because this vault is the same size as this one, only taller. So most of the records that we use every single day will be going into our new vaults. The ones that we don't use every single day, plus the ones in the small vault, will be in the second vault. The things that are in this vault, the small vault, with the special shelving that you gave us, will be all human resources, payroll records,
So not
not my stuff.
Not your stuff.
That's what they're
But the
getting at.
move was not our choice.
No, but the point is that they're going into storage shelving that is specifically designed for one purpose, and the purpose is not necessary for what's going to be stored in it.
Well, it actually is, because we have to keep these records there.
I'm not saying that you don't have to keep the records, but you don't have to keep them in very special shelving that's designed to cater to heavy record books and spacing in terms of their shelving, to be able to have access to them and be able to preserve them. That's the point that I'm struggling with, in the
I
sense that
understand what you're saying.
So the bottom line is you're asking the CPC to fund new shelving for stuff that we've already done.
Well, yes, in a manner of speaking, you did pay for all the books we've done, and you did partially pay for some of the shelves. You paid for the map cabinets, you
Yeah.
paid for the shelves. Shelves were paid through the town, the capital fund. So I'm asking for shelving in the new vault, and that's all I'm saying. It's just
Well, if the town then paid for the shelving previously, under the capital campaign, why won't they pay for it again since they forced you to move?
because they said it has to be part of the town-wide records management program. And I don't know how much that will cost or how long that will take, but I need shelving now.
So the shelving, let me get it straight, in the little vault over there, where all that extraneous stuff is going, none of the historic stuff. Did we
Well,
pay for
assessor
the,
still has some records in here, so those
did we pay for the shelving in that little one?
Yes.
Or only the
Yes.
big one
No.
under your hand? That's what I'm
No.
getting at. We did not pay for the shelving in that little one, it already had shelving. The one under your hand,
This one you
we
partially
paid for, and we're going to still keep on using for our books.
Yes.
But because you're in the new office, any of the historic books that are elsewhere that can't fit in under your hands, that's why you're asking for the new shelving, so it can the rest of the books that won't fit in there will go over there, because right now they're not in the old shelving the shelving that we paid for. They're in that little one, which already had shelving.
The town paid for some of this.
Yeah, in
And the
that little
town
one.
paid for some of this.
But we paid for that.
But you paid, I think you paid like $30,000 toward this, and it was like $70,000 for the whole project.
So that's why I want to make it clear. Some of the shelving that she's talking about putting all that extraneous stuff into, we did not pay for that shelving.
How many vaults are there?
There are
No,
4 on the first floor,
2 upstairs.
2 on the second floor, and 1 in the attic.
Okay, 4, 2, 1. So there's 7 vaults. And out of those 7 vaults, we have partially funded shelving for 2 of them. Okay. Are the other 6 or 5 vaults being used to house books?
The ones on the 3rd floor are used for the court books, court records. The ones on the 2nd floor are used for probate, district court, and
Superior
superior
Court.
court records.
Is that
A lot of
archival
those records
material?
came down to me as county clerk, so those are now in this vault. And those will stay in this vault. But all the the vital records and things that we use every day, the town meeting records and things will go into this. So on the second floor, all the court records are basically in those two vaults. And then the vault in the attic is being used for the district court records from like the 1800s.
And then the registry is somewhere, right? I mean, the
Registry
registry
of
of
Deeds
deeds.
has their own vault.
Their own
In
vault.
fact, we have two vaults.
So are all these 7 vaults outfitted with archival?
No.
No, only,
Well, I don't know what the state has done.
oh,
The state's in control of the probate and the superior court.
got it,
Yeah. I'm only
okay.
10.
So all the probate records are locked.
I just have one question. So Catherine, the request is mostly based, I have a caveat, the request is mostly based on easier access for you and your staff.
Certainly, it would be more efficient,
Okay.
because we have to use these records every day. And right now, sometimes we take the records all the way, and we do leave them in that vault overnight, but like I say, it's a lot of wasted space.
No, I understood. And the move, though, that you're also referring to opens up a vault that another town department needs to store HR and payroll records, correct?
Correct.
So that's the benefit of your request. It's easier access for you and your staff, but the request isn't because the current books and the investment that CPC has made historically, that you don't have enough correct shelves or products and inventory. It's not about that. You have enough correct shelves and inventory. They're just not conveniently located anymore based on the move.
I guess you could say that.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, observations relative to this request? Is there any additional information that we would request of Catherine to further our understanding of this request? Linda?
Not necessarily a request from Catherine, but I've been through I've been in all the vaults when they were setting up the shelving and stuff. It would be very educational to go down and take a look at the one in the front and the two on the back side of the building, so you can see where all this stuff is migrating to and how much stuff is in some place.
There's a lot of stuff in the attic that's
It's got to come down too, that's archival. So it's spread out all over the town building, but you can clearly see the 3 vaults that we're talking about and how things have moved into the one where they're trying to go now.
Hearing none, I will thank you for this presentation, and I will close this part of the public hearing relative to this application. I think the committee is prepared to consider this application based on the discussion today and the information that you have previously submitted. I will then move ahead to the next application, which is the town clerk's record archiving project again. This one is to replace 2 servers for your Laserfiche system, and that application is contained in the white binder, and we're open for you filling out more additional information with
Okay,
respect to
well,
that.
this is basically, as you say, to replace, take 1 server and replace 2. And it also includes the software required to make it come up and running and to update it so that it's even faster than it was today. These servers were purchased in July of 2011, and they'll be 4 years old next year. And according to our vendor, hardware vendor, they should be replaced every 3 to 5 years in order to avoid any major meltdowns or crashing or losing the data.
I had a question. Did we pay for these in the first
Yes.
place? Okay, so this is an appropriate request in terms of replacing or repairing something that we had previously provided with respect to historic preservation under the terms of the Act. Is that your understanding? Linda?
And these systems are accessible to the public, or makes the records through your office?
They need to come
And
in
the issue with us, when we did the Browns River for the 3 new people, when we did the Browns River restoration of these records, we had to have them available to the public in a more ready format. And that's why when Browns River does their stuff, they put it on Laserfish and all, on multiple media. And we did pay for these so the public could get access through you.
Because
And
there's only,
if they
you have to
crash,
have a license to actually
use them.
machines.
If they crash, would you lose the data and they'd have to reinsert it?
I don't think so, because right now it's being backed up on another server as well. But that's only like a temporary thing, so like your computer, you have a temporary file. And if your computer crashes, sometimes you can mine that for your information. And then, of course, we also have all the microfilm and stuff too, so we could recreate it if we had to. If there were a major disaster, we could recreate it. But for basically everyday work and stuff, we use these servers every day.
Because I know the town replaces the main servers fairly often to avoid a big problem. I can't think it was a couple of years ago they did it.
Our stuff is backed up on your stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the system that provides the information that the public has access to in terms of all of its research and that letter of
Yep.
reference. Am I correct?
It's pretty cool.
Any other questions?
I just have one quick question. You mentioned backup. Backup isn't just somewhere else in the same building.
No.
It connects to the town, and we have a contract that backs up in some other city, and yes.
Well, it gets backed up here.
Here.
It just stays on island.
Huge computer room downstairs
Yeah.
that has all the town servers.
But I'm sure they have it going to the cloud somewhere as well, so
Yeah.
that if something happened to this island, it would still be available.
Okay.
Because I know when Linda comes to the CAP program, because I'm not on it anymore, but I was on it for like 12 years, and when she comes to CAP program, there was always, this one's going, 2 are going next
Redundancy.
year, 2 are going the year after that. She's
Right.
got them all built out for the next 5 or 6 years when the servers have to be replaced. They don't all go at one time, so it's, several a
But
year.
Rich was talking about the information on the servers.
Yeah.
In terms of where that information is, that it's not only here, it's also somewhere else off island or out of the structure, because that's really important in case something major disaster happens.
I'm not aware of it, but that may be something that's come along in technology since I paid attention to it, so.
Ben?
This is maybe just related, but how long do things that were microfilm, how long are they expected to last? And what do you?
I think that's a permanent, they figure that is a permanent thing because it can be read, with a light, almost like a slide projector.
Right, well, I have some that are part of a record, and I guess I'm just wondering.
But they're easy to convert to TIFF images if you wanted to do that.
But the film itself lasts a long time, is that what you're saying? Yeah, thank you.
That's
Not
for
acetate
the
anymore.
state archives is what they see. The state, with their archival standards in Chapter 66, Section 10, have referenced microfilm as the preferred means of permanent storage.
Right, oh, good.
Other than the paper.
Well, no, as a redundancy, definitely, or whatever, yeah, wow, interesting, thank you.
Catherine, I just wanted to, it's been interesting for me to read your work as a town clerk, but specific to this project, so I want to thank you for all of your due diligence. I think it's really been fantastic.
I appreciate that, but you have your board to thank.
Mhm. And thank you, board. I'm proud to be here because of that. And as it relates to this request, I think the one thing that would be helpful for me to get my arms around, I'm not sure what timing is, but it is in fact that redundancy and backup piece with the new servers, to make sure that this nearly $1 million worth of investment to go through and put together new books and move things to microfiche and put it on servers for public access, that if there was something catastrophic, that because it's on a server in the same building down the hallway, that may or may not pass, the right smell test, and I'd love to know what that answer is.
Well, the servers, our backup servers are located in this building. Our servers for Laserfish are in our building. So they're backed up with these servers here. Then backed up to that is all the microfilm, and that is at the vault at the high school. So, everything is in a different building.
Well, they have multiple formats for the information. They got hard copy, they have microfilm, and they have microfiche, and they have the other.
Well, the paper copy, believe it or not, is the most stable of everything because it's been
Renovated, basically.
It's all been taken care of.
We had.
Are there any other comments or questions Well, Catherine, is there any additional information other than what Rich asked for you to follow up with respect to the backup relative to the material that this system produces? And if we could have that by October 10, that would be great. If there are no other questions or observations, I will call this hearing after this application to a close.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in view of the fact that Lou and his friend are here early, if you're ready, we would welcome you to come sit up here and take us through a different approach to your proposal this year.
And I just want to say, if you're, I'm going to be away at a conference next week, and, but you're welcome to be down and look in the vaults, and I'm sure Gail will let you in and show you.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
You there.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hello.
I know some of you, my name is Lou Janelle, I'm president of Habitat Board, this is Joe Grouse, Joe is the treasurer.
Hey, go around the table and introduce yourself, who you represent.
I'm Christine Glazer from the HDC.
Where am I from?
You're at large.
No, you're
No,
not.
no. My
From
Housing Authority.
Housing Authority.
Think of where I am, Linda Williams.
Dan LaFarge from Conservation Commission.
Rich Turer, Park and Recreation.
Richard Brannigan, at large.
Ken Bogart, we'll hand back.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Yes, so, first of all, before we start, we continue to be grateful and thankful for the support the CPC has given us over the years. Habitat would not be in business if it weren't for CPC, so thank you. Good news, we can also report that on Monday we have a building inspection plan for our 6th house, and if that building inspection goes well, we will be able to get the Rudd family into that house in the month of October. So we're pretty excited about that, and then we can start working on Tacoma, which the town grant, Tacoma lot, which the town granted to us recently. So this year our grant took a different track, and that's because the board has focused more on changing a few things about the way we build. And for the last 3 houses, we've built these houses with ICF blocks, poured cement into the blocks, and those houses take a lot longer to build than we'd like them to take. So we recognize the importance of building faster because there's such a dire need for affordable housing on the island. So what we've done is we've moved in a direction where we're going to build a more traditional, conventional house with concrete foundation and stick built, and we are going to employ contractors on the island to build us a weather-tight frame. That way we can accelerate the building. And the other thing that's happened over the last 3 or 4 years is as the building trades have gotten successful and busy, it's gotten harder to get volunteers to come out and help us build. So, so by moving the building of the frame up in time, it'll enable us to just channel our volunteers into the house and into a weather-tight house, so that not only can we move faster, but the house is more, I guess, secure from the standpoint it's not sat there exposed to the elements for 1.5 years while we're trying to get volunteers to come out and finish the work. Because of that approach, it will cost us more to build the next houses that we build. It will not cost us so much more that it will push us out of the affordable range. For those of you who aren't familiar with what we target families in the 50th to 80th percentile of median income. So that's typically a family of 4 who's making somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 a year. And we also extend to those families an interest-free loan when we close on the house, and we actually hold the paper on the house. So that enables families who probably couldn't stay here or certainly couldn't find housing here very readily to stay on the island and continue to live here and support the community in whatever roles they're in. The Rudd family that are moving into the house that we're just completing probably would have had a real hard time staying on the island if they didn't know that this was coming. They've been under a lot of pressure from their existing landlord to get out of the place that they're in. And yeah, I think you're all aware that there's a dire shortage of even rental property right now, and lots of people are cranking up the rental rates. So we're trying to be responsive to that as a board and trying to build at a faster rate. The impact we have on the problem is relatively small given the magnitude of the problem, but it's a steady rate that we build at, and we have more land now to build on than we've had ever in the past, and that we have a lot on Tacoma where we're going to put 2 houses, and then we are going to be building as part of the Sachem's Path development. We're going to be building 4 houses in that development, all of which are in the 50th to 80th percentile, because they probably would have a hard time building those houses at those price points. So we build houses at approximately $150 a square foot, which is a heck of a lot lower than what anybody else can do on Nantucket. Mainly because we get a lot of donated material and we have a lot of volunteer labor. So if you have any, I don't know what questions you might have, but essentially our cost of building will go up by employing contractors, but we feel it's the right thing to do. The other point I wanted to make is by shifting away from the ICF blocks, we also know from talking to lots of the builders that they'll be a little more willing to come out and help, because many of them were not supportive of the approach we took with the ICF blocks. So we actually lost some of the builder support because they just didn't believe in the building approach that we took. So we're going back to more conventional, more traditional approach to building. And we have some nice, simple designs that we've run by Andrew Gorse, and we're working with him right now on finalizing the positioning of those houses on the Tacoma lot, so that we can proceed getting approvals and moving forward with the foundations. Yes, do you have a question, Lynn?
I know there's a component involved with Habitat where the people that are going into the house have to perform a certain percentage.
That's correct. They have to put 350 hours of sweat equity into the house.
Is that going to be impacted by hiring a framing crew?
No, there's still plenty of time and plenty of work involved. There'll be plenty of hours for them to work.
Ed Rudd has contributed. I haven't kept track of it, but he's way beyond 350 hours. He had worked his tail off building it, helping.
He's probably qualified for 2 houses.
Another question, the 250,
Yeah. Right.
is that going to be spread out among the units? Is that going towards Safeton's Path units? Is that going to increase? We gave you money already.
Right, that's correct.
So that's going to go
We have money
on
on our books right now from earlier grants.
earlier on, and that's going to go on to top of that to offset the increase in the
That's
cost
correct.
of the
That's
structures.
exactly correct.
So it's spread out among them, or is it targeting the ones over there, or?
Well, the first house that we build on Tacoma, we have enough money for right now, based on previous grants that you've extended to us. We would not be able to complete the second house on Tacoma without the second grant. The additional monies will allow us to start the third house on Sachem's. Actually, the order in which we're going to build the houses is we're going to build a house on Tacoma first. Because Sachem's Path is under some time pressure to complete the first group of houses in that project, we will then go to Sachem's Path and build the house in the first phase of that development next. And we would have money from this grant that we're asking money for. Monies from this grant would then be partially applied to that house, and then enable us to start the second house back at Tacoma.
Okay, so it's going to be spread around
That's
among
correct.
at least 2 units as it is now.
In past grant applications, we've said this money is for house X.
X and
if you
Y,
look
yeah.
at, the fact of the matter is, as we're building, we tend to, draw down as we build. And what we try to do is say, it's going to be for house 2 and 3, house 3 and 4 kind of argument, as opposed to saying it's all going for this house, because that's not really the way we've ended up spending it.
Right, that's why I just want to make sure that
That's
it's
right.
going to it's going to finish one, start one, partially start one.
Right.
That's what we
So you'll have one finishing and 2 going at the same time, 2 and 3, basically tracking somewhere.
We don't know whether we have the bandwidth to have 2 going at the same time. A lot of it depends upon progress we make and the volunteer effort.
Right, and how
One of the
quickly
things-
that gets
So the
done.
monies we receive from CPC only get applied to construction costs.
Right.
So we have a number of other costs that we use our annual fund and our other donations for, like our office manager and any other activities that we're engaged in. So one of the things that we are probably going to do is hire someone to help us with a volunteer program to try to get more volunteers to come out to the site. Because if we get more volunteers, we can build faster. And
But our money only goes to the
but
hard
your
costs.
money only gets applied to building costs.
Yep.
So we would only get remuneration if it were building costs. So that's all we ever ask for.
Thank you.
Rich?
Just, again, just piggybacking on what Linda was saying, so in the next 12 months, we're really looking at, the RUD is going in October, so that's
Right.
that's done.
Right.
And then the monies that are on hand, and this money, will go to Tacoma 1 and Sessions 1.
The money on hand,
Tacoma
the
2.
money on hand will cover Tacoma 1.
Okay.
We have enough money on hand to cover Tacoma 1
From
Okay.
previous grants.
from previous grants.
Yeah.
This grant will cover part of the cost of, and then we'll still have additional monies to apply towards Sachem 1, but not enough to complete that house.
Okay.
So the monies from this grant would help us complete Sachem's 1 and
Start
and
number
enable
3.
us to start Tacoma 2.
So you envision Tacoma 1 and I'll call it Sessions 1 maybe being complete in a year from now.
I think
Possible.
2 to 3 years is probably the window that we're looking at, unless we get a better response from the builder community when we ask for volunteers.
Okay.
We also have a board member, a new board member who's part of the Building Association board, and we've been working with them to try to get more interest stirred up within the building and trades community to try to get us more volunteers to help. You know, skilled volunteers make a huge difference because they know what they're doing and they move at a much faster clip.
Who's your new board member?
Kieran McClusker is his name.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Yeah. I just,
Build it better, I think.
Yeah.
yeah. But my notes on this is your application and your track record speak for themselves. Thorough, detailed, complete, informative, and you got a successful track record. So keep it up.
Thank
Nice
you.
work.
And we're getting two units out of this, sort of.
Other questions? I wish all.
Thank you.
We're as positive as this.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Find the water fountain.
I guess I should formally close this part of the public hearing relative to this application. Harold, do you have something for us?
Well, the only thing I have is
Calendar.
I'm going to give you guys some calendar. We need to get some dates for the meetings coming up. Because apparently, I'm going to give you guys some calendars. Can you just take one and pass it down, please?
Yes, sir.
Can you take one and pass it down, please? That's November and this is October.
I think you better look at October pretty intensely. October. I have my October open here.
This is all marked up upon, but
So
if
what?
you look at it, these are the dates. I'm sorry. These are your names and the dates that we were looking at to just for the interview. I didn't go beyond the interview at all. Okay, for the,
I think we're having enough trouble getting interviews, forget the beyond.
The other section I figured you guys can take as much time as you want. The interview is a lot of coordination that has to take place.
Am I missing a second piece of paper?
October?
November.
We're just looking at October, November, right?
Here's
November is
November.
coming around.
Here's
No,
November.
this is the one I was missing.
Yeah, I'm missing November.
That's November, Rich. You're going to hand it over here.
I have it written in pencil on the top.
Not on all the sheets, it's empty.
Oh, well, that's why you don't need that.
What is that?
There's more than that.
It's October, November, and
Okay, so this is November.
That's November.
Here's the file, it's a letter.
This is November.
Okay.
Anything, any more left?
And November, when does the warrant have to be?
It has to be in before Thanksgiving.
Well, I found out,
think
and I
it's
told
November
us, what did I say,
22nd.
what did I say when I was here? 23rd? 24th?
November
Okay, yeah.
But please, I end up doing this, okay? And this is, it's not the easiest thing to be able to create, even though I have it on the computer. because we have to do two warrants. We have to do one for this money's coming back,
Yep.
and then we have to do one for the money's going out. And so the sooner that we can get this stuff organized and get it done, the better off we are. Okay.
Linda, do we have HDC on Veterans Day and Election Day?
No, you can't have a public meeting.
Okay, just asking.
What day is,
So that's the
well,
4th and the
Election Day
11th?
you can, but when's Veterans Day this year?
November 11th.
Oh, well, forget that. We
Okay.
don't have an HCC meeting that day.
Okay. No HDC.
Hey, Neville, I'm sorry.
Now, the next, if you guys don't mind, the next scheduled meeting that we had, whether it's valid or not, was scheduled for September 29th.
Monday.
This coming Monday, we
What?
don't have it on for Monday. For Monday, September 29th.
What happened there?
Okay, and I believe on that day, we have everybody, everyone we need.
2 to 5, right?
Right.
Wait a minute, what day do we
This
have
coming
it?
Monday.
We can't. We're too late to file it. It had to be posted yesterday.
No, it was
So
posted.
everything is already filed.
It was,
Everything, all of our meetings,
they were posted.
all of our meetings have been posted. All of our meetings have been posted.
So what day do we have one?
Right? So the next one we have September 29th, you don't have a problem.
Well, first I'm hearing about it.
Because we have at least 5 people. Once we have at least 5 of you guys, we did the meeting.
Okay, but just back the truck up for a second. I didn't even have any idea we had a meeting on Monday.
Don't you get email?
I've looked at it, I haven't looked at it in the last
No,
24
email-
hours.
No, the email was sent out earlier.
That's how I know about it.
Well, I printed out what came with it, which was the schedule for today.
There was, earlier on in the week, there were two
must have
notices
missed
sent
that
out.
one.
One for this meeting, and then one for the money, the 29th meeting.
All right, what
And then
time
the
is
third
These
that?
are the
email-
people,
And there
these
was
are
a
the
third
people that
email
said
that
they
sent out
can't
that
be
corrected
there
the
on
one
the
that we put
29th.
out.
What day?
Right.
The people that said they can be there on the 29th was Ken, Linda, Toby. No, there was actually one more who canceled out, actually, and Rich.
Well, yeah, that's when you asked us weeks ago.
The other Rich cannot make it on the 29th, so we're back, so we need another person for the 29th.
What time is that
2
meeting?
to 5.
That's 2 to 5, they're all 2 to
All right,
5.
who's on that one? Just send it to me again then. I have
And
no
that-
clue.
On that, we have the Hospital Thrift Shop, we have
That's
the
piece I couldn't
Interfaith
find.
Council,
Listen, he's telling you what we have.
Yeah, hold on.
Hospital Thrift Shop, Interfaith Council.
Wait a minute, Hospital,
This?
Thrift Shop,
Yes.
Interfaith Council.
Interfaith Council.
That's the
We have-
rental assistance?
No.
What is
Yes.
that?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
okay.
rental assistance program.
Okay, and that's
We have
Monday.
the Historic Preservation, that's the Sconset Golf Course Clubhouse,
That's land bank.
yes.
Yep,
We have the NHA, yes, the old jail,
The
oh,
old
the
jail.
goal, yep.
and we have one for affordable housing, Nantucket,
Oh,
Surfside Road.
Surfside
housing rental
Road.
units. That is what we have for the 29th.
Okay, and that's 2 to 5?
I wanted to ask a question, because I actually wanted to, I wasn't too sure about this, I meant before, no, it's okay, all right.
So that's 2 to 5. Up here
So
still?
2 to 5.
We're okay up here?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the
Sorry,
next date?
We,
I'm
we
away
do or
from
we
my
don't have
schedule.
enough people for
We
the
do not
20th?
have enough people.
So who is coming? I'm coming, Ken's coming, Rich is coming.
But I'm available thereafter.
Am I missing anything else on here?
Just kind of those who said they were available, I guess.
Well, see, I don't have any dates on here. I just got the Monday. Is there another date that I'm missing?
Did you see this thing flying
Yeah, I've
around?
got that, but that's just who can be where. So how many do we need out of the, we need 5, and you're gone, because you're leaving.
Yeah.
So it's Ken, myself, Rich,
Bam.
Bam, and who's not here today?
We have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, Rich isn't
Rich.
here.
No, Rich first.
Oh, you're here, all right, that's 5 right here, and then Barry, you never, I don't know what his
No, Barry
schedule is.
said, Barry,
The only day that Barry can do it is on the 24th, and it has to be after 4. That is the only day he can.
Holy crap.
Carol
Okay.
is away.
And Carol didn't have
Carol's
any
away.
All right,
availability.
so,
And Toby said he can be here all along,
All
so
along, so
I'll text him,
so,
just remind him.
so Monday the 29th is a go.
There's a go.
So you
Yeah.
got Ken,
Linda,
Linda.
Van, Rich, and Toby.
Toby, Bam, and Rich. So that's 5.
Yeah.
So that's a go.
And I'll just,
Okay.
I'll check
So,
with
so
Toby.
now we're on to the first.
I'm sorry, Bam, you can be here on the 29th.
Hold on, who do we have?
Bam, Linda, Rich Tour, myself, and Toby.
And Rich, or not
No,
Rich?
Rich,
Rich can't go.
no.
Yeah,
Rich
Rich
Torah.
Torah. Oh, Bam. Oh,
You
Bam.
just
Just add Bam to your last list. and
Okay,
you're
that's
in.
it. We have Bam to the
done.
list, and you're on. He's good for the 29th. Thank you very much.
I will be here.
Bingo.
So will you have
All right,
any
so what are
You
we
said you would
doing?
be here?
God willing, yes.
All right, what about the 1st? Are we doing something on Wednesday, the 1st?
Okay. The first, we only have 3 people.
Oh,
We have Linda, Toby, and Rich T.
so we have Ken.
And I prefer not to be here, so.
I can make the first
You can make the first,
at 2 o'clock.
one more.
Well,
So sorry I put trouble.
Oh, I'm not
Who do we
sorry. You're
have
going
coming
to
up
beautiful
to
places.
present?
We have, on the first, we have the Coffin School.
Hold on.
That's for the brick facade.
Yep.
I recall. We have
I can't
South
do-
Church Preservation.
I can't do the first.
All
Toby's
right.
doing that brick facade, so maybe he can make that.
Hold on. So
Toby is
apparently,
going to be,
apparently you only have 3 people on the
Toby is
1st, so there's no point in going through this. It appears to be myself, maybe Toby and Rich Tur,
and I
Me.
and
and
we have
Brannigan.
4 people.
We need
right now.
5.
We need
I mean,
5.
I could skip the Concom.
What time does
That's
Concom
what it
start? It
says.
starts at 4.
Starts at 4.
Who do you have on the 1st?
Go,
Hold on. I can start
If I
on
make
the
a
First,
difference, I'll definitely.
We have
Coffin
Rich
School.
Brannigan.
No, on just who's on the 1st? Coffin School?
All right, let me just finish one thing before you guys start talking all over the place.
Well, you just
please.
started down that
Let me
road.
start again. We
Thank
have
you,
the
Neville.
Coffin School, we have South Church Preservation, we have the Nobody Field Project, that's the field house construction.
Yep.
We have Sachem's Path, and we have Sustainable Nantucket,
Now, here's the question. What time are we starting that
Yeah,
day?
What time are we starting?
2 o'clock.
And how long was it going to go? Because I
We have this place from 2 to 5.
But how, with your schedule with the applicants, how long would this place be used?
they sound like they're all repeat.
They're all repeat.
These are all repeats.
So it's
Now,
4 repeats, it's 2 hours?
We have
So
one.
you're at 4 o'clock.
I can come.
He can stay
I
till
can
4
come.
Well, I can
o'clock.
stay till
I'll
4
come
too.
anyway.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, I can be here between 2 and 4.
Yeah.
And I've got to be someplace else to chair another meeting at 4.
Yeah, and
My
that,
feeling is if you
That
guys
works.
are here and you can stay at least until 4, that is it. I mean, that would be good. If there's
Okay.
just
All right, so
one or
we'll do-
2
we'll
people
do
other than
2 to
that,
4.
you'll just have the thing.
2
You
to
just
4
wanna
on, 2 to 4 on October 1st.
Well,
You get a substantial.
I'm sorry, I'm
amount
not
of
trying to
meeting time.
complicate things, but Neville, you and I have had that conversation,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to take a pretty important meeting in town at 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
so that doesn't mean I can't be here at 2:45, and I'm
well,
not
we
sure.
can't
if-
open the meeting without a quorum.
Right,
Well,
so,
we do have a quorum.
So,
no, I don't think, if I'm not here at 2, I don't
Hold on.
know.
Wait, wait.
No, wait a minute.
Toby said he would,
All right, Ken, Rich Brannigan, myself,
Toby,
all right, Toby,
Ken, you're gonna be
Bam, and that's 5 that start at 2 o'clock, and
I
then
could
just
be here
come.
from 2 to 4.
Yeah, 2 to 4, so
Yeah.
that the applicants all got to come.
Unless Bam can come again.
I'll come at 2 to 4.
Okay, Bam is here, so we have to.
Starting at 4.
But you got to
So,
make sure all those people know they got to be here
Let
earlier.
me finish what I'm saying. So Bam, you're gonna come.
Yes,
So, if you want to, Rich T,
yeah, you can come at
you can do your 2 o'clock meeting and just get here.
2:45-ish or
Yeah.
whatever, that's
Right.
fine, okay.
But my
So
point
we-
is that the applicants have to be told to be
Be here
here.
on, all have to
That's
be
our
here.
job.
They can't be here at 4 o'clock because we're not going to hear
No, the
them.
point is that they need to be here at 2 o'clock, because as we saw today.
That's what I did today.
Yeah, as
I
we
did
saw
that
today,
today.
we
Yeah,
went through some
perfect.
stuff.
That's what I did today.
So
Yeah.
we were finished an hour ahead of schedule.
Yep.
That's what I did today, man.
Okay.
All right, so CPC, that's going to go 2 to 4 on,
On
So-
2 to
On
4 on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
If you just have one more,
okay,
we don't have,
So
famous last
I
words.
don't have,
So you're fine on the 1st.
Yep.
Yeah.
unless you guys want to hold off on that one.
On which
So we're
one?
on Monday and Wednesday are good now. We've
Okay.
agreed to that.
So where else do we want to go?
Well, we have one more meeting to go to, but
Friday the
that was
3rd.
scheduled. It was.
I would just soon not do
scheduled
it on a Friday if I
It
don't
was
have to.
scheduled for the 6th,
No, but 6th is,
which was a Monday.
Yeah,
So-
but there's a real problem with respect to getting a quorum with the applicant.
Right, I did not even bring that list in because I know that I have to like cancel that whole thing.
So do we want to try Friday the 3rd, if that's the last one?
Well, the problem
I
with
just
why we
hate
went into the
that.
week of the 6th was the applicants, a couple of the applicants could not be here.
Yeah.
They weren't not on island,
They're
and
not
so
on
couldn't,
island.
they couldn't get to
Yeah.
here until the week of the 6th.
Exactly.
Well, do you want to do it on the 3rd then? Or they
No.
can't
They
get,
can't.
they
No, they
can't do
can't.
the 3rd, which is
Cannot.
Friday.
Yeah,
They
they're
can
not.
do the following week.
Yeah, so
I got
take
it.
a look at what's our calendar look like for the following week, the 7th, 8th, and 9th?
Where are you out, where?
What's-
Gone?
What's the matter with the 6th, Monday the 6th?
Well, it's Child's Health Day.
Monday the 6th, we have Toby, Bam, and Rich T.
I can do Monday the 6th.
You can do Monday the
I
6th?
can
But
do
your
Monday the
applicants
6th.
can't.
Okay, that's what.
No.
Yeah, they can.
I thought you said it was the 3rd, Friday the 3rd, they
No, no,
couldn't do
the
it.
But he called, he could be here. They can do
They
that.
came back and said they can
Yeah,
do
they
it.
can do that date, the 3rd. Hold on.
Monday the
The
6th.
6th, not the 3rd, the 6th.
Okay.
All right, so that's
Six.
me, Ken, Rich.
No, I can't, I have a problem with the 6th, I can't do the 6th.
Well, then let's move it then. I'm not going without you. Then let's go to the 8th.
We can-
What about Wednesday the
Okay, hold on a
8th?
second. Okay, on the 6th, we have First Congregational Church. This is
Hold
the
on.
people we have scheduled. We have Nantucket, the Pond
Who?
people, the Pond.
Oh,
Pond
Pond.
people.
Yeah, that was my project. They never went forward with
We
it.
have the Museum of African American History.
Higginbotham
We
House.
have Envision Nantucket.
And that's it?
And we have the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, Andrew Wilson.
Lots of people. Something just scary.
All right,
What
so
about the 8th?
Wednesday the 8th. Who is it who's having trouble getting here?
I don't,
Ken?
if we did the
It was
date-
the South Church, the church.
Congregation.
First Congo?
No, it was the other one.
Well, the South Church is already scheduled on October
Wait a minute,
1st.
It must have been the Congo Church.
It's got to be Congo.
Because Will Long.
The First
Yes, that's
Congregational
Congo.
Church said that they can make it on the 6th.
Can they
I
make
have
it?
to write,
Yeah, but-
this
Can they
report.
make it
I
on
can't-
the
I can't
8th?
make it on the 6th.
Oh, you can't make it. Well,
They have other people that can come. I've got
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
who can come from there.
So you guys can do it on,
I'm not doing it without you.
1, 2, 3, 4. You just need one more.
So why don't we try October 8th on Wednesday and see if Will can come then, and if not,
Does that finish the applicants?
If we did the 8th, who can come on the 8th?
I can come.
Everyone here can come,
Except
Yes.
Christine, who's away.
except Christine.
yes.
Okay, so let me just make a mark. Ken can come.
Rich, the two Riches, Bam, and.
I can come.
Linda can come.
Yep.
Christine cannot come.
No.
Toby can come.
Yeah.
Van can come.
Yep.
And Rich T can come.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm gonna
Shoot
call
for
these
the
people.
8th.
I have to call these people and see if I can.
And we
I gotta
block,
call them.
block
and
two,
then
block
right
2 to
away.
5.
Okay, so then
I know
what
they want Bill to
happens
do it.
after all the meetings?
Well, after all the meetings, everybody gets a chance to, they get some additional material back to us. And then what we try to do is we schedule
Like the
a
UN.
time when everybody can be, because we're going to have at least 2 and maybe 3 hearings. The first of the hearings would be to go through every applicant and see whether they're in or out, okay, in terms of what we do. And then the second one is we start to do the dollar allocation with respect to it, because we will have a pretty good idea as to dollars that we have to do. And what we do is we ask everybody to do their own form of allocation. And then what happens is that there is a positive motion made with respect to it, seeing whether it gets a second or not. And then there's a lot of discussion with respect to it. And that just because the motion was made and passed, the dollars allocated, that's the first cut at it. We then take a look at what we've done with respect to everything, and we then take the day off and reflect, and we come back a second time to be able to do that. And if somebody was unable to make it to the first meeting, everything that was on the list for funding is open to be reviewed again. So if you happen to miss the meeting and it was important to you and it didn't get the funding, you can raise the issue in terms of saying, I'd like to make a motion to do this. So that the object of the exercise is that everybody has a bite at the apple And by having two meetings, you should be able to make one of the meetings where we do the allocation with respect to the dollars.
Plus, you can listen to the tape.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people
Okay.
do.
So there's going to be at least 2 to 3 more meetings after.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you'll be
Yeah.
back.
And the other thing that I want to have very clearly understood up front, okay, is that when we make a vote with respect to a decision to recommend an award to town meeting, that is the recommendation of the entire committee. And the entire committee supports that vote. There is no, it was a 5-4 decision and I voted against it, okay? That is the way that we have operated for 13 years, and that is one of the conditions that I, as chair, and Rich, as vice chair, have insisted on, and we have never had any problems, although we have had a number of very close votes. But it is the committee's decision that becomes unanimous once we have decided to go forward with it. And I think that's really, really very important. And I think it's very important because in the 13 years, we have only had one change made to a recommendation that we have made, and that was with respect to the snowmaking.
One of the best proposals ever came out of it.
But again, so I want to have it very clear with that doesn't mean that we can't have a lot of really valid, hard-fought arguments with respect to for and against, and
we have.
And we've had some situations.
Raging battles.
Really raging battles, and where people stormed out of meetings because of the fact that the vote went a different way than they were hoping. But the fact is that this is a true decision of all 5 of us, or 9 of us, because that's the reason that it was set up that way, so that the interests of the total community are represented here, and everybody has a really, truly equal voice with respect to that.
Thank you. Neville, I have a question. We just secured the 1st and the 8th. Do we not need to secure any other dates as we're here right now?
Okay, I'm just going to make a statement. This takes care of all the interviews.
It does. 2 more dates, takes care of everything.
3 more days.
I'm sorry, 3 more days. Monday, yes, thank you.
So just to be clear for everybody, so we got Monday the 29th.
Yes.
Monday the
Okay.
29th,
We got Wednesday the 1st,
Wednesday the 1st.
and we got Wednesday the 8th.
Wednesday the 8th, we're going to see. I was getting back to you on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
And then-
fine. You need
Well, I
to
think
make
we
sure
need
the
to book
applicants.
everybody else on the 8th,
Yeah.
even if Bill can't come. Because we'll just set it up when he can come. Maybe he can come when we have our regular meeting on the
I don't know what you're
20th.
saying.
Our regular,
It's not exactly what you're saying.
They'll be able to have somebody else come.
in our regularly
They don't want him-
scheduled
they don't
meeting
want him- they
in
want him to
October
come.
is the 21st,
Right.
right? That's Tuesday the 21st at 3:15.
What I'm saying.
And after what I want you to do is to then take a look at your calendars, to Rich's point, and look at the week of the 21st to see what we're able to do in terms of later that week relative to the first of our decision-making meetings.
The week of October 20th, Monday,
I see.
October 20th.
Yeah.
We're talking about that for the deliberation?
First
Yeah.
is really
Well,
good.
Can I say something?
Let Rich finish before you say something. Kevin.
Right. If we have if we're going to be done with the applicants on the 8th, okay?
That's pretty early for us.
Which is great, which is a great job. We then come in to the 21st in our regular meeting. I think at that meeting, we then have these calendar sheets with us, and we pick 2 meetings of at least 2 hours apiece. Now, remember, our warrant isn't due until out here, the 24th, and our November meeting is the 18th. And we probably aren't going to know our monies until November 1st.
Right.
That late?
So,
Yeah, that's always.
so we could, we could have our first deliberation meeting maybe the week of October 27th.
No, I can't be there because I'm having surgery on October 27th.
Okay, there you go. So
My
then,
knee replacement.
there you go. So then
Bionic.
we probably need to look at the week of the 3rd and the week of the 10th.
Yeah, those would be okay for me.
Okay.
That first week.
They're on the 10th.
The 3rd and the 10th for 2 meetings, but at least 2 hours apiece for who's in and who's out,
What
and then
days
But we're not
of the
going to
week
do
are-
it on the 21st,
No, no.
because I may not be back
No, but
myself from North Carolina.
What days of the week are best for you? It looks like Wednesday seems to work most really well for
That's
everybody.
not too bad.
That's fine for me.
Well, let's target, let's send an email out saying that we would target Wednesday, November 5th and Wednesday, November 10th.
12.
12th, sorry. And as a full, and as an additional backup, Tuesday, the 18th, to finish up, if there's any,
At our normal.
at our normal meeting.
Yeah.
So what about the 3rd and the 10th? You're not doing that?
Yep.
No.
No,
Okay.
So we're not going to do any deliberations on the 21st if I'm not
No.
back in time?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So you're looking,
So
Not
what
start
so what we're
till
what we're basically saying here is that we're going to be done with the interviews on Wednesday the 8th.
Right.
Okay, we've got our normal meeting on Tuesday the 21st of October. We're tentatively scheduling Wednesday the 5th and the 12th.
Month of November
Have at
for
least
deliberations.
2 hours apiece, say 2 to 4 o'clock. Okay, for are you in, are you out, and then we come back on the 12th, and then we try to divvy it up.
On the 12th, try to schedule, can we do 3 hours on the 12th? Rick?
Yep.
Yeah.
On the 12th, 2 to 5 on the 12th.
5.
2 to 4 on the 5th and 2 to 5 on the 12th.
And then on the 18th, we've
Our
got
regular
our,
meeting plus if we need to
As a
get
fallback.
some additional time.
All right, so
because
we're
then
talking,
we'll look,
That gives me a weekend.
we'll
so the
look to
5th
have-
and the 12th is where I'm throwing this in here.
Yeah.
we'll look to have the
Theoretically, 2
warrant,
o'clock.
we'll
2
look to
o'clock,
have,
2 to 4 on the 5th and 2 to 5 on the 12th.
so we're gonna look to have the warrant basically determined by the 12th, and with any changes, we've got the 18th, and then the warrant has got to be submitted on Monday the 24th.
And I don't want to wait till Monday the
No,
24th.
No, we
please.
can't wait.
No.
Okay. Oh, good.
okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it, Neville?
Yeah, couple of things. If we cannot get here, that's what we want to know. If something happens, it doesn't look like we should have a problem. If we cannot get this space here, we will be meeting at the African Meeting House. All right, just letting everybody know. And where there's no bathroom facility. But no one went to the bathroom while we were here. I saw.
Well, the Higginbotham house is open.
Yeah, well, it's part of it.
No,
Yeah.
it's all it's up out on the ground.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you can't get this for Monday, the 29th?
No, 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 this is
The 5th or the
the
12th.
5th or the 12th of November.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't know whether or not have scheduled.
Got it.
It'll probably be okay.
It should be all right.
Just in
It's not
case.
FinCom days and
Okay.
it's not HCC
You'll let
days.
us know where.
Yes, I'll let you know. You'll know by Monday.
Well, why can't we meet at the Dreamhouse?
Thank you so much.
We could also meet downstairs, Neville, if there's nothing happening up here.
Well, we asked them for space and they gave us what they had.
Yeah.
That's how. That's
Well,
how
we
it
got the
works.
Dreamland, which I had the view.
Right. Okay, is there anything else that we need to get done from an administrative point of view?
Nope.
Good work.
I want to thank the new people for the experience today.
Getting close.
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of stuff to read, and don't be afraid to ask hard questions. I took that role today because I wanted to have you guys feel comfortable in knowing that it's okay to do that, and because that's part of our job. Our job is to be satisfied that we've asked the tough questions and that we're comfortable with what the funds that we're entrusted with recommending are being used properly for the citizens of the town.
Well, Ken, you know what we've done before, because I think it was Barry, wasn't it? Christine, for your edification, because you're going away for the longest period of time, Barry sent in questions he wanted us to ask on the ones that are coming up that you're not here for.
Yes.
I think everyone asks pretty.
We're no shrinking
But if
violence around here.
there's something in the grouping that you wanted us to ask as they come up when you're not
Oh, okay.
here, what Barry did is he emailed in Ken,
Yeah.
and we asked the questions
Yeah.
for him and got the answers for you.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to do that from your computer,
Thank
you can get to any one of us
Yeah.
and I'll bring it in, or Ken will
Okay.
bring it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want you to have,
From
not be
Italy?
able to ask the question.
Wherever you are.
Thank you. Pardon?
Is it from Italy?
No, France.
France,
France, sorry.
on a bike.
Good for you.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 4:05. Wow, is that
Seconded by
early?
Dan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Good job,
So I want to
everybody.
ask Dr. Zarin, by any chance, your orthopedic surgeon?
No, Daniel Ward.
Knock that off.
Ward?
Ward.
This is,
My husband needs it. He
I gotta go down.
Well, Ward has done a lot. He's a specialist in knee surgery. He's done a lot of people here on the island.
Really?
Yeah. And,
Okay, I'll tell him that.
So Shane Battier.
And I was there
tomorrow
last
morning?
night.
Shane Battier tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Is that right?
Huh?
Shane Battier?
I'm purposely working on the project tomorrow, so I can be there for that.
That's a good
I
one.
did sign up for that.
That is a good one. I'll probably do it.
And then you get Julian Assange on Sunday.
Hologram.
Hologram live from the Ecuadorian embassy, because if he steps 1 foot out of that Ecuadorian embassy, he's toast.
Take your food stuff out.
Toast.
I just want to say that on camera.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. So knee replacement, eh?
My right knee is finally giving up. I just couldn't play tennis anymore, and so,
I'm just
Do you ever
waiting
have
for me to be
cortisone?
crawling.
yeah. I also had, they gave me a shot a couple of years ago that I took in
Cortisone?
three doses.
Oh.
3 injections in the knee, and it really worked well. It worked for almost a year in terms of taking the pain. Then he did a second one and did absolutely nothing.
Nothing. If they don't do anything, they did that to my shoulder and they have to fix it. They fixed it.
Like the first one, it was a magic pill, and the second one did 0.
Wow. They
So-
say if it works, they'll put it off. When they shot my
Yeah.
shoulder after softball, everybody in the whole